Hello, it's the Great Canadian Bagel here, coming to you with the next update to the Ontario Provincial Election Series. So, first order, the campaign is going to be starting in earnest this week, so I'm just trying to get in a video just before the campaign, so I don't have as much data as I normally would like before publishing a video, but I figured campaign's coming, starting up, so I want to get like the one final pre-official campaign poll in before the actual campaign starts, so we can see going forward where the mood changes. Other order of business here, I'm doing something different with the video on Thursday, assuming I can find a stream, which I'm pretty sure is going to be streamed, but we'll play it by ear, and I will keep people posted coming Tuesday if there is no, if it's going to be canceled, or by message using the YouTube discussions or whatever it's called, if I cannot find a stream in time. I'm pretty sure I will be able to, but assuming I can find a stream, I am planning on doing a live stream coverage of the Conservative leadership debate, the first one, hosted by Canada Strong and Free Network. I will be having a co-host with me, my lovely girlfriend. She'll be joining. So I hope everyone who's interested in seeing anything about the Conservative leadership race and the debate coverage will be there. Now, I will just note, if you really just want to watch the debate 100% and not hear commentary, won't be the best place for you. There will be commentary, and we will be discussing what the different candidates are doing and our thoughts on these things. But that is the plan. But without further ado, let's get into what is happening now. So there's a lot of actual riding level changes between this one and the one I posted on Tuesday. Now, part of this has only really been one poll this week, so that one poll from Main Street has a lot of weight. But assuming that this holds, and I will also note I had a few mistakes that I caught in my original data entry. Like I had Brampton North for some reason. I typoed it. Well, not for some reason. I made a typo and entered the data, and I gave it to the Conservatives or PCs by a huge margin. So basically I had the 2018 data set, and I, for some reason, it was a typo. I typoed and had Doug Ford actually having won this district, but in reality, the NDP won it. Oops. There's a couple others like that where I fixed them, and I won't say there's no possible data errors left, but I fixed a couple of them, so that's also part of what's changed here. Well, in general terms, so the Progressive Conservatives are doing better in Northern Ontario. We're actually approximately seeing the total collapse of the NDP in Northern Ontario here. They're only walking away with this riding, can't think of the name of it, and then Timmins, Cochrane, and Sudbury are competitive for the NDP, but they're in second. Sorry, yes, in Sudbury they're third place, and Timmins, Cochrane they're second. So they're taking a wallop here. And the PCs are coming in and getting quite a strong position, with several ridings like this guy and this guy getting deeper control for them. In Eastern Ontario, over here, in Ottawa, the Liberals are getting into a slightly stronger position. This guy here is not competitive for the Liberals, and several seats in Ottawa, they are winning by larger margins. Now, winning seats that you're already winning by larger margins is not terribly useful, but it's a start for them. Largely speaking, Southern Ontario's GTA's largely the same. In the city of Toronto, down here, and Scarborough, and Etobicoke, Though, is Etobicoke an actual city? Someone in Ontario, let me know. Because in Nova Scotia, we have like Halifax, Bedford, Dartmouth, but they're all technically the same city, like jurisdictionally, but they have different names in different areas. So I'm not 100% certain how this is structured. But this region, the Liberals are doing quite a bit better. They've picked up some seats from mostly the NDP, though I guess compared to Tuesday, not many more seats from the NDP, but they've also strengthened their position. A lot of these ones controlled by the Progressive Conservatives are more competitive for Liberals now. And in general, they're doing quite a bit better here. And there's a potential for easily 5 seat pickups, depending on if the momentum goes. Because Liberals do have a decent amount of momentum right now, so if that tracks forward, they could easily pick up 5 more in Toronto, possibly these 3 NDP ones for 8. So they do have room to grow still in Toronto itself. And Scarborough. I'm pretty sure Scarborough is a separate city, like jurisdictionally. Moving to Southern Ontario broadly, the NDP is getting big hits. So they're currently set to lose almost all of Hamilton. I'm a bit nervous about this projection. I think this might possibly be a spurious result from the model because of insufficient data going into it right now. And because there is no clear definition in polling about what region is what region. So, like, I have this Hamilton-Niagara region here, and there's other people who have regions that are like Central Ontario or Southern Ontario, Hamilton-Niagara, and I'm not really 100% on what there's no clear agreement on every single pollster for every single sub-region of Ontario, except really like GTA, the North, Toronto. But the East, Hamilton, Niagara, and South don't have a clear pattern between every single pollster, so there is a bit of difficulty in projecting this area. So I think this might be potentially a spurious result. So if on election day the NDP doesn't actually lose almost all their seats in Hamilton, you shouldn't be surprised. Look at my model. Right now it is projecting this, but I'm very doubtful. Like a very large press X to doubt here. Moving into the rest of Southern Ontario, though, the NDP are set to lose both seats in London and possibly the third one. Windsor is completely contested. It is a contested seats now, and they've lost all their seats in Waterloo. This one I'm more confident in. There is still the issue that Hamilton, Niagara, in Eastern Ontario have where do these boundaries exactly end? But the numbers being fed in for Southern Ontario or Southwestern Ontario here are more, for lack of a better term, they're more conservative. Like, they're not showing as big leads for the Conservatives, but they are showing a decrease in NDP support quite significantly. So this I have more confidence in. This I'm not extremely confident in, so I would be careful about Hamilton Niagara, but the rest of this seems relatively fine for now, especially if the NDP trajectory continues. So we're going to look here, and this will help us really understand what's going on with the NDP. So in broad terms, week to week, the NDP have lost 2.4 percentage points. It's not even really week to week. It's April 26th to May 1st. So that's really not that much time. That's 5 days. They've lost 2.4 percentage points worth of support. The Liberals have gained about 1.2. PCs are up a tad. Greens are a little down. And then the small parties have gained a little. And I will note here, because I don't think I have a good label, but this is Liberals, PCs, NDP, Greens, Ontario Party, New Blue, and Other. Oh, I guess the labels are right here. I'm blind. Well, here are your labels. So over here we have the 2018 results transposed to what I am considering each region. These are 100% accurate. I'll just copy and paste this over here just to make it a bit clearer. So, to clarify, these might not be the regions that everyone else would group as a region, but this is what I'm considering the 4 regions are. Or, well, I don't have like an actual picture for this, but of what I'm considering the 4 regions of Ontario are based off of several things, which I won't get into because it's kind of boring and arbitrary. These are the polling results from 2018, or the final results. So what does this tell us about right now? Well, you look at Hamilton, Niagara, the NDP are down 15 percentage points. Liberals up a little bit, Conservatives up a little bit, everyone else up more. And I will also note I am hesitant about the Ontario Party and New Blue Party results because they are getting polled relatively high right now. And the Ontario Party, I will also note, is an estimation for me because they're typically lumped in with Other. Sometimes they're not, but so they're kind of an estimation. But so this party I have the least confidence in, for the record. That said, these 3 other New Blue in Ontario I have very little confidence in because I think the polling is wrong. Because historically, niche third parties popping up all the time in Ontario, and they don't go anywhere. And it would be rather shocking to see something like the New Blue get 3.7 percentage points, or Ontario get 2.2. They are led by relatively notable people, at least or nationally, if you're conservative. Not the most notable people, but relatively notable. Carrie Allos and Sloan are notable people, so it is possible, but I'm doubtful. Back to the main point here. NDP lost 15 percentage points in Hamilton. They lost 15 percentage points in Southern Ontario. They lost 14 percentage points in Toronto. 12 in GTA. 11 in the East. And 21 in the North. Wowzers. The NDP are set to be absolutely demolished. And we, again, going back to this, we see it quite clearly. They're projected to go to 8 seats, losing 79% of their current seats. Having 0 pickups, so it's just straight losses. Though, that said, pickups and losses equaling out to losing 79% of your seats isn't better, but not good numbers for the NDP. And the Conservatives are... I'm going to use progressive conservative interchangeably here because it's easier. They're set to gain ground in most areas. They're losing some of the East and GTA, gaining a bit in Toronto and South and Hamilton and North. The Liberals are gaining in literally every single region, which shouldn't be that surprising to anyone. And we've hit the sweet spot right now. I'll go back to this because it'll be easier. We've hit the sweet spot Ontario-wide right now where I think this is peak vote splitting. I don't think the vote could split harder than we are right now. I think at this point, if the NDP continue to lose ground, which they have every single poll I've seen, I'm going to rephrase it. Internally, with the same pollster, poll over poll, the NDP have lost ground. So, like, you might see the last Ipsos poll might have been higher than the Main Street poll before that, but the last Ipsos poll versus the second last Ipsos poll is a downward trend. And that makes sense. So every single poll, the NDP are losing ground, and there's a plethora of reasons, it seems, for this. It seems like Horwath is having a bunch of fighting within the party about certain candidates. She kicked out one of the Hamilton MPs, and recently one of the Brampton MPs was expelled. I'm not 100% sure about all the internal politicking details, but as an outsider of the NDP, it looks like there's a lot of infighting going on right now. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But from the outside, it does look like that. She's been the leader for the last 4 elections. There might be people losing confidence in her. That could be a factor. The Liberals are rebounding for some reason. I'm not really clear what Del Duca has done that is causing him to rebound, the Liberal Party. But whatever he's done is working quite well. I just can't quite put the word to it yet. Hopefully, going forward and more information coming out will make that clear. And I think the biggest one here, I've recently skimmed through the NDP platform. Now, I will not say I did an exhaustive reading. So there could be elements of it that I'm not quite right on. But from my cursory reading of it, I think their platform result is a big factor in why they're losing support. Notably, in the main, we only have one data point right now for this, but the last Main Street poll before their platform was released, and then the next poll by Main Street after the release, showed a 3 percentage point decline in NDP support. And I believe across all demographics, it's roughly the same. Don't exactly quote me on it because I didn't think to save the second last Main Street poll. So I only have the current one, so I don't really... Actually, I guess I could look... No, I do technically have it saved, actually. I didn't think to look into it before this video because sometimes I'm not smart. But my recollection of it is most demographics they lost support in. And I think one of the reasons for this is their platform they released, for lack of more sophisticated terminology, is a fairly woke platform. They have a lot of actual racial and sexual discrimination in the platform. Like active discrimination they're advocating for, though for the quote-unquote preferable woke groups, like they're talking about giving specific benefits to black people because they're black or women because they're women, stuff like that, like loans and stuff like that, and requiring businesses and government bureaucracies to hire these people because of their race and sex. So like literal active discrimination openly in the party. They also want to expand tons of government programs. They wanted to take over stuff in the private sector, like nursing homes. That's what it's trying to say. So they have a very aggressive, very left wing. Like normally the NDP is like kind of toes the line between social democracy and socialist, but this platform very much steps over the line and is very, very socialist from like an European standard of socialism. Not like the thing that people in North America often say, it's like, you are a socialist. No, like this is like verging on socialism, like actual legitimate socialism, because they're talking about taking over entire private sector industries, several of them, in the platform for really no good reason. I can't, from my experience in Nova Scotia, can't comment on Ontario, but the public sector run nursing homes were worse in every way, shape, and form than the private ones regarding COVID. Like the biggest one that caused all the problems for elderly dying in nursing homes was a publicly run nursing home. So arguing to take them over, the government should take them over because COVID, from a Nova Scotian perspective, doesn't make sense. And I suspect this is causing a lot of the alienation because a lot of the traditional voters of the NDP have been working class people. Like basically the unionized working class. And between the COVID positions the NDP have taken, basically being very strong pro-lockdown, and this platform, I think they've successfully alienated their historically core supporters. And I think at this point, a lot of the remaining supporters are, for lack of better terms, what's the word I'm looking for here? University-educated young people. But not like young people as a whole, just the university-educated flavor. Because you look at where they've gone down. They've went down in every single region. Provincially, they went down about 14 percentage points. They went down approximately 14 in Toronto. Only 11 in Eastern Ontario, primarily in Ottawa. But places like Northern Ontario and Southern Ontario and Hamilton, Niagara, i.e. the places in Ontario where the unionized workforce is more significant, either Northern Ontario being places like mines, or Southern Ontario and Hamilton area being more industrial, they've lost the most support in those regions. Also, notably, GTA, they've lost less support than they have in North, Hamilton, or South. So, in all of the areas that, typically speaking, have had a higher unionized workforce rate, they've lost more voters right now. Whether these voters stay away forever, I cannot forecast. I'm not a wizard, though if I was, that'd make this a lot easier. But for now, it seems like they have done a very good job alienating the traditional voters, and they've spread their vote support very thin. Instead of dominating a couple regions, or doing very well in a couple regions, going back to this for a second, in the last election, they did good in Toronto, they did very well, very, very good in the North, and good in the South broadly, regardless of what the division between these two areas is. They did very good in the South. Now, looking at it, they are doing pretty bad in Eastern GTA, and then everywhere else they're roughly the same, within margin of error. Well, that's not good. It is really, really, really bad for a political party to not have support somewhere when you're talking about a parliamentary election. You cannot elect people in a first-past-the-post system without concentration of support. You don't want to over-concentrate your support, because then you also can't elect anybody. But getting 20% in every single riding, you elect nobody. It is better to have 60% support in one riding than 20% support in 3, assuming every riding has the same population. So you get this circumstance where their vote is so spread thin and it's so unconcentrated because they seem to have alienated their core voter demographic, either for reasons I've articulated or other reasons, but what can be said, which is just blatantly true based off of the polling available, is the working class, like college educated, by college I mean like trade school educated, middle income, working class people are voting for the NDP significantly less than they did the last election by polling. So it's objectively clear they've alienated their original core demographic. My hypothesis is that their platform has gone significantly to the left, and this demographic does not perceive those things as helping them. The reason for this, in my hypothesis, is you look at generic woke policy. You look at the needs of someone in the working class. You're an industrial worker. You work in a factory. What are you concerned about? You want your job to continue. You want to be able to afford, have a comfortable income so you can match your needs to have a house, to have a family, to be able to have all your basic necessities kept and have a little extra. That is generally the goal of the average person. Have enough money to have extra money to buy nice to haves, have a family, have a home. their platform is in broad strokes, not primarily focused on this. It seems to be focused on these woke grievance issues and socialism. Things like raising taxes, provincializing industries, providing more government control over the economy. Generally speaking, across every single jurisdiction that I'm aware of, active socialist policies where you're taking over private industries, raising taxes for the sake of raising taxes, do not improve the economy. And specifically, spending a lot more money than you're taking in tax revenue actively hurts the economy in several ways. One, you're competing with the private sector for capital, so you reduce how much capital is available in your area to be collected, to be acquired through bonds for companies. You directly cause inflationary increases. Now, how much inflationary pressure can a subnational entity like Ontario cause on the Canadian currency? I'm not really clear on. I would have to take more economics education to say that, and I have not. I'm primarily a computer scientist, but I have taken classes on economics, so I'm not completely illiterate on it. So, fiscal policy 100% has a major impact on things like cost of living and the economy as a whole. So they want to blow out spending, provide a bunch of services that are questionably better covered by the government. I cannot comment specifically on the status of things like pharmaceuticals and dental care in Ontario, but my experience in my life, my dentist is more responsive and more accessible and better quality than my primary care physician. This is not to throw any shade at my primary care physician. I think she's doing a wonderful job, but she doesn't she's not as accessible because the shortage of family doctors basically means every family doctor is overworked, and that's not a flaw in a socialized system. That is just baked in. Bureaucrats cannot run anything well. You do not use bureaucracy to do something if you want it to run efficiently. That really is the core flaw with a government-run anything. It consequentially has to have bureaucrats running the system, and if bureaucrats cannot run a system well, it's not because bureaucrats are stupid. It's not because people in bureaucracy are incompetent. It's because the incentive structure of bureaucracy does not lend itself to having a better system, a self-correcting system. There's no profit motive. There's no objective criteria to assess business, which is, by the way, the primary reason for a profit motive. The profit motive isn't, quote-unquote, to make people make money. I mean, it does do that, but the main goal is the main reason why it is acceptable and good is it provides an objective criteria for a business to assess its units. If you look at your software department is losing you money, you're going to reform your software department to make it more profitable. Pardon me. So consequentially, since you do not have an objective criteria to assess workers on, it is very difficult to know if they're doing their job properly, if they're adding value to the organization, and which subparts need to be overhauled. So you're left with kind of this general blanket throw money at the problem because you can't assess easily the quality of a worker. That is the problem of government-run systems. Sometimes it has to be that way because there's no good alternative to a government-run military, for example, or government-run police forces. There's some alternatives, but I don't think they're necessarily better. They have other pros and cons, but I'm not going to get into that. But the point of this is that if your goal is to provincialize a service, you are almost certainly going to make it worse. Either quality, accessibility, or price. Typically, the government doesn't want to make price worse, so they reduce the quality of it or they reduce the accessibility of it. Or both. You see that. This is an analogy back to Halifax, or Nova Scotia exam, but in Nova Scotia you see that in healthcare quite clearly. We have too few doctors, we have too few nurses, we have too few other people who do healthcare things. I can't name all the roles. And the quality is consequentially reduced as a result. Not because the healthcare workers are bad people or they're incompetent, but because they are overworked and they don't have the equipment to do their jobs properly. That is an inevitable result because the incentive structure doesn't exist to make it work properly when it's completely publicly run, and the system has... It's very easy as a government to only pay lip service to fixing the problems, and it's very difficult for a government who actually wants to do something to legitimately improve it. So, in a long story short, I think this is why the NDP are suffering quite hard right now. I don't necessarily think Del Duca is doing the best job in the world. Now, I think he's doing a competent job, based on what I can see. But I don't think he's doing anything special. What seems to be happening is the NDP is alienating its core voter bloc, and a lot of them are shifting to the Liberals and to other parties. Some, it seems, to the NDP, or to the Progressive Conservatives. Will this continue? Hard to say. Now, as always, there is the asterisk here. You see this across all polls, but the magnitude is heavily affected by Main Street right now because they are polling more frequently than everybody else. But I suspect Main Street isn't wrong here. They are relatively good polling in the last Ontario election. So I do not have much worry that they're having a major polling miss here. Now, some subsections, like places like Hamilton, my model might be wrong, but I don't think that's the polling being wrong. I think that's just the difficulties in translating the polling to make my model work, which is really, that's a me problem, but considering how much man hours I actually have to put into this, there's only so much I can do here. And frankly, it might be an impossible problem. Actually, that's not quite true. I can think of ways you could solve this, but I don't have the man hours to actually implement them, so I'll just make sure every single video I throw out my unsure nature of basically the generalness of Southern Ontario here. I'm just not really sure. Not that confident. Like some places like Oxford, yeah, I'm really good. I'm very sure the Conservatives are going to blow out Oxford. But places like London, Hamilton, it is what it is. But I'm gonna cut this off here so I don't go too long. I'll just reiterate to all my lovely viewers who are still watching at this moment, and you're all wonderful people, that I am planning on doing a live stream on Thursday. It's going to be later. I think the debate's supposed to be 5:30 to 7 Ottawa time, so Eastern time. All going well, assuming I can find a stream and all this such. The plan would be to be starting around 5 o'clock Ottawa time and going to the debate, and a bit after people have questions or want to ask myself or my girlfriend questions on it. With that, though, if you liked the video, please like, share, subscribe, comment all the things you want to comment if you think I'm off base on my assessment so far. If you are an NDP supporter, would really like to hear your opinion on this, especially if you're an NDP supporter who's walking away from the NDP to any other party right now, why you did that. Obviously, I'm a human being, so I have biases on things, but the more I like hearing everyone's feedback because it helps me assess things, because, well, I am obviously a biased person. I have opinions, and I think most of my audience can probably roughly assess where I stand on most things. I do my best to try to actually get this accurate, because at the end of the day, it's like a challenge to me. Like, I want to be as accurate as possible, and it can be very difficult sometimes because you're putting in data that is unfavorable to the person you want to win, but I absolutely do my best to try to make sure I'm as close as possible within the power of math, because, little known secret, you can forecast this stuff, but reality isn't math. Thank God. That said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time with something else.